Hello, for our final discussion, we're going to be talking about two more journal articles. The first is published by Guy J, and it is the process of disability screening, in which she posits, the author of this article, that it cannot be arrived at as a moral judgment, and so we'll discuss that briefly. And we're also going to juxtapose that with Mariongoff's article on the impact of population policy on social welfare, which discusses how things like birth control, eugenics, and they use that term in this article in a very broad sense, and other avenues. It's not just limited to those two things. So you could think of birth control as including, obviously, everything from birth control pills to abortion to anything you can imagine. So juxtaposing these two articles, where on one side of the argument you have Guy J stating unequivocally that this cannot be a normalized theory, because you cannot arrive at this judgment that no matter what disability or disease, no matter how painful that baby's life may be, you cannot terminate the fetus at any stage because you're not making a moral judgment. And this juxtaposes very interestingly with Mariongoff's impact on policy and social welfare, on population policy and social welfare, because in that it talks about how this necessary part of life, of how sometimes it is necessary to control birth, to have an abortion, or to take birth control, or to do these things, actually has a positive effect on communities, and as such it would on the world itself. We saw in a study, I believe in the late 90s, that was done, that they drew a direct correlation between abortion rates and crime rates over time, and the higher the abortion rates went, the more directly they correlated with a decrease in crime in the corresponding years that followed. And the Mariongoff's article doesn't quite go that in depth with specificity, but it talks about many of the same things, and the importance of trying to keep this class divide from becoming too extreme. While you would think it would be Guillet's position, based on wanting a normalized moral theory, to have people be allowed to make these choices so as to kind of shorten that gap between the haves and the have-nots, if you will. But I think this is an interesting place to end on. This is an interesting thought to end on, because as we've seen with China's population policy and the impact that had on social welfare, that really didn't have a very positive effect on social welfare. And obviously in Nazi Germany, that topic has been beaten to death, so I haven't really covered that in depth in any of these videos or in the PowerPoints, because everyone knows that was an atrocity. I find it interesting, though, that there are people arguing, even now, in 2019, that aborting a fetus, especially if you specifically know that baby is going to be born deformed and essentially so mentally disabled that they're not going to be able to function as a human being. They're not going to be able to experience human life. Their life is going to be pain and misery, and that's it. And that does not sound good. I would never want that for my child. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So this is an interesting topic, and I've taken a kind of pro-eugenics stance, if you will, a positive eugenics stance, in that I see all the positive ways that eugenics can be used, and I believe that if put in the right hands, that as long as we stick to medical principlism and we ontologically take a look at ourselves as human beings, that we can use eugenics in a positive way. What do you think? I look forward to your comments on my presentation, And I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.